Welcome back to Shop Talk for Season 5. I'm Brandi.
And this is James. We talk about all things related to mental health and cross-cultural workers.
So glad you're here. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today for Shop Talk. We have a great guest on with us today. We have Ulrika Ernvik, who is currently based in Sweden. You are Swedish, so yes, you also, but you have lived other places and you'll be able to explain that in a bit. But we're really excited to talk to you about your experience working with TCKs. And I want to give you a chance before we start talking to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, yes, thank you for inviting me. It's always a joy to be invited to podcast and talk a little bit, share a little bit. So, well, I'm Ulrika Ernvik, live in Sweden. I grew up as a TCK in Congo and came to Sweden as a teenager. As an adult, me and my husband and our kids moved to Thailand. So I'm a mom of 5 TCKs. And we lived in Thailand for 11 years, and I worked there at the Well Member Care Center as a family therapist, which is what I am as a profession. And so I work with families. I did that in Thailand, and I do that now as well, especially families who are in transition, moving to other cultures. But I also work as a supervisor for groups here in Sweden working within the Swedish welfare system. And I write books and I'm speaking in different occasions for different organizations. So I've written several books, but 2 of them are in English. The rest of them are only in Swedish. I'm sorry about that. Third Country Kids, A Gift to Care For is in English, and I would add Japanese, Portuguese, and Chinese. And the Safety Stories is in Swedish and English.
So far.
Great.
Yeah, the Third Culture Kids A Gift to Care For is an excellent book. We highly recommend it. And in fact, your friends that translated it into Japanese are now on our Eurasia team. So we get to collaborate with them now.
Yes, I know. That's good.
Again, James has a connection. Every guest we have, there are layers of connection. So you've raised 5 TCKs yourself. How old are they now and where are they?
So the youngest one is 25 and the oldest one is 36, and they actually are all in Sweden, and 3 of them have families, so we have 6 grandchildren.
Okay. All right.
How do they view their TCK experience?
I think they would answer differently, each one of them. Mainly, I think it depends on what ages they were at when we lived in Thailand. So I think the 3 youngest ones, they graduated from high school in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And I think their experience is a little bit similar, while the 2 oldest ones, the 2 oldest ones did not do high school in Chiang Mai because in that time we lived in Sweden. So I think that makes it different.
And even with, if all of your children had graduated from high school in Chiang Mai, I imagine they would have different experiences
Yes.
of it, as often kids in the same family will have vastly different experiences of what it was like to be a TCK.
That's true.
So you have written a few books. I want to talk about safety stories, and just if you can explain what that is and how you came about developing that idea.
I'm pretty excited
Yes.
about this. This is like I just finished my doctoral dissertation, so there it is. But
There we go, James.
It's all about all I've been studying and reading about is safety for organizations. So the impact of
Yes.
individual trauma over time and over generations, and how an organizational unit actually holds some of that trauma experience. So I'm really excited to hear more from you about trauma and safety and storytelling for our TCKs. So tell us about the Safety Stories model.
I will, and keep in mind that you can use it also for organizations, not only for TCKs. We can come back to that. So yes, pretty much everything in life is about safety, because we have an amygdala in our brain constantly searching for safety, trying to figure out Is this safe? Is this person safe? Can I feel safe? And when we come to a new place, that amygdala is working even harder because everything that is new could be unsafe. So 10 years ago, I felt a need of learning more about trauma. What is that? And I wanted to develop something that could be used by anyone, a parent, a friend, a colleague, because I felt like we had this view of trauma being something dangerous and that only professionals can handle. And I thought that cannot be true because there are not enough professionals, because trauma is happening constantly. So I had time to read what is the recent research telling us about trauma. What is it and what do we need? And I learned a few things. One is that trauma is in the body. It's not about the event that we experience, because 10 people can be in the same situation. Some of them are traumatized, some of them are not. So it is about how my body reacts to what I have experienced. I also learned about that we can open memories and invite imagine safety into a memory. And what we imagine activates the same neural pathways in the brain as if we experience that in real life, which opens up a really good opportunity to process trauma. Because then we can remember what we have experienced, invite an imagined safety person into that memory, and things happens in the brain that helps us move on and not be stuck in the trauma. I've always been fascinated by storytelling, and I also started to explore how could storytelling be of help in the trauma processing. And I learned and realized that when a person can hear her story told back to her, something healing happens. So Safety Stories is basically about a person telling her trauma story, what she has been through. Then I, as a listener, ask her, who could have come to help you? If you imagine someone coming into that situation, who would that be? And what is that person saying or doing? And so the person starts to imagine safety coming in. And as a listener, I listen carefully. I continue to ask, so what is happening next? What is your safety person doing and saying that is helping you? When she has started to feel safe in her memory by the help of this imagined safety person, then I ask her, now, is there anything your body wants to do now when you feel safe? Because trauma is actually about that our body prepared itself to defend or fight or run, but couldn't. And when we start to feel safe, there is like an action in our body that want to get out, that want to be expressed. And this is called the act of triumph, which is nothing that I have invented. That's something that you can find in a few other therapeutic models as well, as everything actually safety stories can be found in other therapeutic models, but not combined in the way as I have done it. So then we do this act of triumph together. And when that is done, I say to the person, now you can relax. Now I will tell you a story. And so I retell what the person has told me about her trauma experience, about her imagined safety person coming in, about her act of triumph, and I weave this into a time story. So I start with a few things that happened before the traumatizing event, and I end with a few things that have happened afterwards. And this is because when we are traumatized, we are sort of stuck in time. So we want the brain to understand that is over. That is part of your life. A few things happened before, many things maybe, a few things happened afterwards. So this retold story could be something like this. Once upon a time, there was a little girl. She lived with her mom and dad in a country far away, and sometimes things happen in that country that were not that safe. And one day, and so I retell what she just told me about her trauma. And then something happened. Her grandma happened to come into that situation, and she did this and she said that. I just retell what this person just told me. And then she wanted to do her act of triumph, and she screamed or whatever she did. All this is over. This happened 2 weeks ago. And after that, the girl did this and that and that and that and that. And now we are here, and that's the story for today. That's Safety Stories.
I mean, you're as you are rewriting that story in their mind. I mean, you mentioned the polyvagal theory. I'm taking the certification course right now through the Polyvagal Institute, but you're kind of rewiring that through the social engagement part, like the combination stage, right? So both in the moment as they're storytelling, because you are providing that safety connection as the person in the room, but also as they are rewriting that story and imagining somebody there. They're actually shifting it sounds like, from the shutdown parts of the brain and the body to more of the social engagement, which is easy to imagine why that's so healing.
That's exactly what happens. I'm glad you are mentioning about the polyvagal theory, because that's one of the theoretical basis for safety stories. Because
Can we stop for a minute and just give I know y'all touched on it. Can you give like just a definition of the polyvagal theory?
Yeah. The polyvagal theory is a way to understand the autonomic nervous system. There are many theories. No theory can completely explain something, but this is one way to understand the autonomic nervous system that is developed by Stephen Porch and his team. And it is about that our nervous system has one accelerator that we call the sympathetic nervous system, and two brakes. The parasympathetic nervous system has like two branches. When we are doing fine, when we are relaxed, we are in what is called the ventral parasympathetic system, which I call the peaceful brake, where we feel peace. Well, we cannot feel peace the whole time. We need to be active. So the sympathetic nervous system helps us to be active, to wake up, to go to our job, and so on. But if too much is going on, if we become overwhelmed, stressed, or experience danger, the sympathetic nervous system will sort of go on very strong, like if we would press that pedal to the bottom, and we become anxious, angry, the fight-flight response is activated. And if we cannot get that stress out of our body, we will go into the freeze state, which is the other branch of the parasympathetic system that is also called the dorsal parasympathetic system. When we are in the freeze state, we cannot really think, we cannot find out solutions, we cannot engage socially, we are disconnected. And Stephen Porch found out that there are two ways mainly to move away from the freeze state to the peaceful state. And one is through activity, to move our bodies, to get that stress energy out of our bodies, to move into the sympathetic nervous system, use our bodies, work hard, use our muscles, and that will take us to the peaceful state. And the other thing that can help us is to be close to someone that is connected, that is in her peaceful state, that can help me. I like to think about it like that person can be my hotspot. So my Wi-Fi is totally disconnected. I am in the freeze state, but someone is coming in. I can borrow her as my hotspot, and I can be engaged again, and in that way move into the peaceful state.
And I think one thing that the polyvagal theory brought to us is an increased awareness at how this is often happening automatically, because the vagus nerve communicates 80% of the information up to the brain and only 20% down. And for a long time, we thought fight, flight, or freeze was mainly kind of a top-down function. But actually, our body, through what's called neuroception, is reading safety around us all of the time. So it's often
Yes.
happening as our body responds before our brain is even aware it's happening.
That's so true. And that this is happening on a daily basis.
All the time.
Because that helps us to understand that trauma is not about these big events. We might be traumatized more or less a little bit every day, but if we can move from the free state to the active state, which most often we can, especially with the help of others, we will not be stuck in a trauma. So just to be aware about this happens on a daily basis, but then sometimes if we are too overwhelmed, too lonely, don't have people around us who can help us, then we might get stuck in this freeze state, and that is when we are traumatized.
Francine Shapiro talks about the big T traumas and then the little T or the micro traumas. She's the one who developed EMDR, but that's exactly what you're talking about. We do have those little things throughout the day that can activate us, and then the really big things that can stick with us. So I would imagine that the stories would be good for both.
Absolutely. And this is what I like with safety stories, because when we learn as ordinary people, parents, friends, colleagues, to do this listening for the stories and then retell the stories, we weave in daily healing. So things don't have to pile up and be so big. And this is especially important for children. If we are in a stressful situation like in transition, if a child every evening can hear a story about herself, that will help her tremendous to go through this transition, because then she will relax, she will understand what she's going through, she will get help to find the words for all this experience and emotions. And storytelling is so bonding. When we tell stories and listen to stories, the hormone oxytocin is released. Oxytocin is a bonding hormone. So it's very bonding in between parents and children, but also in between team members or anyone who is sharing stories with each other.
Ulrika, I wonder if some of our listeners maybe are not trained mental health professionals or have much experience in this area, but they want to engage, with their children or kids that they interact with this framework. What are some things that would be good for them to consider as they're moving into it? Maybe things they should be aware of about themselves, or, things to do or not do if they're engaging with them in this way.
It's good if I am aware a little bit myself about how I react in different situations and what I need to be in and come back to this peaceful state, as I call it. So all of us will be overwhelmed, but that I know how I get back. And we all have our strategies for that. But basically what helps most of us is to move our bodies, to take a walk, do some outdoor activities, dance, but also water, drinking water, take a shower. Because for children, it's very important that we as parents know how to take care of ourselves. So they see that even if we become overwhelmed, sometimes we know what to do about it.
It's also, I think, important for parents to know that if they're not grounded, it's going to be a lot harder to help their kids get there, because the kids will feed off. Our bodies are so automatically reading each other that if the parents are really anxious or concerned or worried or agitated, angry even, that their kids will pick up on that. So
Yeah,
I want to encourage the adults to move towards self-regulation first, because that's the best path towards helping to co-regulate or connect with their kids.
it is.
You're talking about how just the importance of having these times to tell your stories, even like the big T and the little T. If we're talking about, a child or adolescent who's experienced a big T trauma, would this be something you would go over like once with them, or is this like a continuing process that's going to take some more time?
So I think it's good for parents to do this safety story process on a regular basis, because new things will come up again and again. But my experience is that when a person have been able to go through the safety story process regarding one event, then they're fine. But new things happen. So I often say that once you have learned safety stories, it's like a way of living. where you constantly ask these questions. So who could have come and helped you? What would that person have said and done? The beauty with this question is also that it gives us ideas about what my child needs. Because if my child will say, I wanted my teacher to be around. Okay, then I'm aware about that something is going on at school and my child need her teacher around more than that's the case now. So
Mm.
that will also give me strategies that we can explore. Can we make these strategies happen in real life?
Mm. Yeah, certainly it's a forward tool. It's not just a way to process what's happened, but it's a very tangible, practical thing for especially parents or caregivers to then do.
Yes, and safety stories can also be used to prepare for what is to come. Like
Mm.
if I know my child will go through a medical assessment tomorrow and she's nervous about that, then I can say, so if you imagine someone being there with you tomorrow, who would that be? And what is that person doing or saying? So it's all about helping us to see that we are not alone, that there is someone with us in the different situations.
I would imagine in a faith-based setting that people might
Mhm.
choose Jesus as the person to be with them.
Some are, but even if you're a believer, that you believe in Jesus, you might not see him as the safe person in that situation.
Sure.
So
Which is
sometimes
okay.
they pick someone, yes, which is
Yeah, yeah,
totally fine.
yeah.
And for many who are not believers, they pick someone else, but you can see that within us as human beings, there is a need of believing that someone is with me all the time, even when
Mhm.
in reality a human is not with me. I need to have an idea about that there might be someone with me.
Have you seen people use someone who's been deceased as a sense of somebody still with them?
Yes. So when they pick an imagined safety person, it can be someone that exists, but also someone that is
Mm.
dead.
Sure.
It can be someone they have seen on TV. Some pick an animal, which is totally fine.
Mm.
One occasion, a lady picked a tree, and I
Mm.
thought a tree, but I really saw how the tree was there as a stable presence for her. So safety stories is also very much about just following what happens and trust the process. Okay, yes, tell me more.
Gosh, it must be so helpful for grief and loss.
So helpful for grief and loss, so helpful for pretty much anything and for all ages, young children, teenagers, adults, single people, couples, families, teams. You can use it in any kind of situations.
I wonder how you would approach it differently depending on if you're working with children of different maturity levels and different ages. Like how would you adapt it differently?
Pretty much the same. I mean, if I have a teenager, I might not start with once upon a time. I might say, I know a girl. So,
Mm.
so the wording might be a little bit different, but pretty much the process is the same.
Have you ever used art or music or other mediums to bring the person into their story or help them express their story?
Yes. So with children, it can be helpful to have some kind of figurines.
Mm.
So as they tell what they have been through, we can move around the figurines and see what happens also when the imagined safety person is coming in. Sometimes I let them draw a picture, especially of the safety person coming in, because uh, I want to amplify that image of safety coming in. Um, but all kind of expressions could be used. So it's I like to see when people use safety stories and develop it in different ways.
Even thinking, I
Eh,
had was working with some young people in South Sudan doing a trauma healing, and we had them
yeah.
draw in a safe place. And the only place they could think of was the trauma healing camp we were doing, but that was still a safe place. So
Hmm.
you being with this person is actually even something in the context of their story. It could be a
Yes.
safe place. So even if they're, I can see if they're struggling to like find who that might be, the fact that you were with them in that moment is actually a
Yes,
example of a safe and grounding relationship.
yes, it is.
I appreciate this because I think storytelling and being able to bear witness and listen to other people's stories is so
Mm,
powerful.
it is.
But we often feel uncomfortable with that. I think, even as mental health professionals, sometimes we can feel uncomfortable. And I imagine people who are not trained or more aware in this way, like they want listening in on someone else's very hard or very difficult story is not something people want to do. And they want to just like maybe gloss it over or say
Mm,
Fix it.
exit or just say, doing great, God's good, let's keep going. And
mm,
so I think this is a gift to give
mm.
someone, to just give them the space and the words
Yeah.
to tell their
And
story.
and the beauty is because we know that we will invite safety, we are able and we make ourselves ready to listen to the hard stuff as well. Because we know, sometimes if I am a listener, even if I am a professional, I can feel like, oh, I don't know what to do with this story. But in safety stories, we do. So I can be open-minded and listen to the worst things these people tell me. And then I just say, so who could have come and helped you? And in that way, I move both the traumatized person and myself
Mm.
into safety. So after I started to use safety stories, I'm not exhausted when I have met 6 people in a day. Because I go home and I remember about dragons who are playing around and Jesus lifting up people. And, these are the stories I remember, not about sexual abuse or accidents or loneliness. Yes, I have heard these stories as well, but they have all moved into safety and play. Because what we see that these imagined safety persons are doing is to take the person, well, first stop the situation, then take the person out of the situation and often to a place where they play and eat. So that is like what we as human beings need. That's why we feel safe, when we're able to play and eat. And yeah, so that's where the sessions end, the counseling sessions end with these imaginations about play and good meals. And that's what I take home with me after a full workday.
Because you've actually shared that story back. So the story you have told is actually the safe story.
Yes.
So your body now holds that memory,
Yes.
which as a caregiver is a powerful thing.
It is.
Ulrika, you've written the book Safety Stories, and
Mhm.
do you also have training available for
Mm.
people who want to learn more about this?
So I offer webinars on a regular basis every semester. So I've just offered a round of webinars now. So that's 4 times 2 hours where we meet up like once a week and people got to understand more about safety stories, practice, ask questions, and they read the book in between the sessions. So on my website, it's possible to see when the next webinar is starting up and to register. And if you have joined the webinar once, you're then welcome to join it for free as many times you wish, because that's a way to really be able to start to use it.
And we'll have this in our notes whenever the podcast is published. We'll have a way for people to link to that. So now that this is out in the world, where do you see yourself moving forward next with just your thoughts on caring for others and caring for TCKs?
Yes, of course, I'm eager to spread the word about safety stories to those working with TCKs, to parents, to the TCKs themselves. Besides a lot of other good stuff that is in my book, Third Culture Kids, A Gift to Care For. But I also wish that safety stories could be even more used in war zones. Third Culture Kids are not only about the missionary kids, there's so many other groups of third culture kids, refugee kids, and many others that should really benefit from safety stories.
I could see it being easily integrated into like a psychological first aid kind of response.
Yes.
There's some natural places in that model already that would so easily fit
Mhm.
in.
That's true.
It's been really informative and good to talk about this. It sounds like, I want to say simple. It's not simple, but it just sounds like such a very doable way of interacting with someone in their story and just giving them the gift, like we've talked about, of being heard and being able to reframe it with
Mm.
knowing that there's someone safe there
Mm.
listening to them. I think
Mm.
such a powerful thing.
Yes, I think that is what has struck me with safety stories, that it is really easy to use. It's very simple. It's nothing complicated. It's easy to integrate in daily life, and still it's so powerful. It does such a deep inner healing work with people. I'm still amazed of how I was able to put these pieces together to become safety stories, and I'm very humble and thankful when I hear stories again and again and again about how healing it is, about how children can sleep, they start to eat, they find ways to handle school, to go to school. Yes, so many different stories, both from children and adults, about how it has helped. And many say, like, what I shared in the safety stories, that's something that have disturbed me for so many years, but now I don't think about it any longer. And this, I mean, it takes like 20, 30 minutes, and it totally changes people's life.
I think our brains are for sure incredibly complex, but also very simple, right?
Yes,
Orga says the most important thing for our bodies is to feel safe. So there's like
yes.
being able to have that opportunity with somebody because
Mm,
you're providing safety in the relationship, but also to help them begin to understand what that is about is incredible. And I think most modalities, that's a core part of it, whether it's EMDR or
mm.
the grounding techniques, the polyvagal theory, and certainly sharing stories is about creating a sense of safety both in the moment, but also in what happened there.
Yeah,
And this sounds very doable too. If
Right.
people can be afraid of entering into other people's trauma stories, and this sounds like something that you can develop the tools for very easily and be able
yes,
to give someone space to do this. So,
yes, without having to be afraid.
Yeah.
yes. Ulrika, do you have other resources? We're going to link your resources in the show
Mm.
notes. Do you have other resources that you'd recommend to our listeners about trauma or working with TCKs or just things like that?
Uh, I love the work by Deb Dana. She is a psychotherapist who is explaining the polyvagal theory in a understandable way. And she also has written books with a lot of exercises about how you can strengthen the vagus nerve and your nervous system.
Okay.
I also like everything that Daniel Siegel has written about the brain, the teenager brain, the child brain, what we need. Yes, the brain has a hand.
Okay,
Uh,
excuse me, Kate James for our listeners. This is not we don't have, this is just audio. What were you doing?
Oh, I knew where she was going, so I was demonstrating the hand model of the brain just with my hands.
Okay, okay.
I mean, there is a lot of stuff out there, but I think this is what I would recommend.
Do you want to
Great
explain the
story.
hand model of the brain, James?
I've seen Ulrika do it before
Okay, Ulrika.
at the
So,
Euro
uh,
TCK.
yes, a very easy way to understand the brain is to imagine the brain as a hand. And this is a very simplified way to understand the brain, where we think that the brain has three parts: the triune brain, which includes a thinking brain, which you can see are the fingertips, sort of, in the hand. How do we do this?
I'll put up one of Dan Siegel's, like he's got some pictures.
Okay.
So you can describe
Okay.
it, but I'll put on the website links and pictures.
So if you think the brain as a hand, we have the thinking brain, we have the emotional brain, and we have the reactional brain. And when we are doing fine, when we're in this peaceful state, these three parts are connected. But when we're under stress, when the amygdala has perceived something as dangerous, the three parts disconnect, which means that we might have a lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions, but we cannot really process them. We just react, which is good in case of danger. Then we should react without thinking too much. But if we're constantly in a reactional mood, then it might not be so good, because that also means that we are not social. The social engagement system, as we talked about before, is disengaged. It's disconnected. So this is, again, where we need a safe help brain that can bring in safety, that we can co-regulate with our hotspot that we connect with, so we can be regulated again. And children have a brain that is never really connected. These three parts are never really connected because the brain is not mature enough yet. So that's why children constantly need a safe adult around, not too far away, that can help them to process what they go through, their emotions and their thoughts. And this is why my main message to parents of TCKs is be present. Your children can survive pretty much everything if you as parents are present with your safe brains.
Well, Ulrika, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your wisdom, not just
Yes.
for us on this podcast, but also with the community, as your resources are available. I mean, I've seen you in so many different platforms, sharing and speaking and writing, and I've always been very grateful for the material you brought and how you've prepared it, and also how you've contextualized it to our cross-cultural workers that we care so much about. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. That has been a joy to talk with the two of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your work, Ulrika.
Thank you.
He is
Thank
Dr.
you.
Covey now, so we have to.
That's right.
Yes.
So I'll address him that way. It's a whole protocol that we have.
Good.
Oh, good. Hey, welcome.
Wonderful.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. You passed the first hurdle.
That's right. That's a
Yes.
real test.
No
You
more,
made it.
I guess.
Okay, first off, I don't know you, but I love your scarf.
Thank
That's
you.
beautiful.